Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wise Tech for Wise Money, the podcast where we speak with founders, operators, industry leaders who are actively building businesses, moving capital, and shaping how markets operate in practice. I'm Gary Wayne, founder of A1 Solutions International. We work with leadership teams to improve efficiency, scale intelligently, and grow through smarter strategy using AI-driven automation. Today's episode is titled Breaking the Brokerage Ceiling, from Boutique Success to National Scale and US Real Estate. Today I'm joined by Donnie Pingaro, a real estate operator with over 3 decades of experience, starting his career in 1992, launching his home brokerage in 1997, and building a strong reputation in boutique and luxury real estate across Florida. He has been deeply involved in brokerage growth, development, sales and marketing, and is now playing a key role in scaling ENRG Realty, a national brokerage platform being built from the ground up. At the time of our podcast conversation, Donnie was stepping into the role of Chief Broker Officer, focused on helping agents and independent brokerages break through production ceilings and profitability constraints. Donnie, it's great to have you on today. Maybe you could start today's chat by giving us a little bit of background about your journey from the early 90s to what's fundamentally different today versus when you started.
Yeah, good morning, Gary, and thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to kind of share a little bit of my journey and kind of what's happening in this crazy industry called real estate, especially here in the United States and in Florida. As you mentioned, I got into the business in the early 90s, right out of grad school. Most real estate professionals, if you ask them, how did you get into the business or why did you get into business? It was kind of in a sideways direction. Very, very few real estate professionals were 5 years old and told their mom and dad, hey, I really want to help people sell homes when I grow up. It's just not the way it works. But it then lends to a very unique set of people we work with professionals. In the 1990s when I first started, that's like eons ago. It's such a different world. When I would initially work with a prospect, a buyer or seller, when they would reach out to me and have a first conversation, I had about 90% of the information they would need data-wise, that they would make a responsible decision. They just didn't have access to that. They needed me as a real estate professional. If you fast forward to the 2020s here now, it's a flip. A consumer, before they reach out to a real estate professional and say, I want representation to help guide me in the process and protect me, they've got about 90% of the information they need to make a decision. Depending on the sophistication of that, consumer, there's information out there that they may know more about a specific subdivision, community, or a floor plan than the real estate professional. So that's the reality of today's real estate market is the information, like most things in the world, has flattened out through the internet and through different AI tools, which is kind of exciting. That being said, it's a big investment. There's a lot of potholes. That's where the value of a real estate professional comes in there. And how
Where do the
integrate.
where do the inefficiencies come in then with all this information?
The inefficiencies is accuracy of information. That's the reality of it. I can't tell you how many times a really intelligent buyer or seller will come to myself or one of my agents with a preconceived notion of a value or something as an attribute about a home or community because they read it on the internet. And it's two-dimensional. It may not have proper accuracy context, and it takes time for the real estate professional to talk to that consumer and say, I respect what you've read. Let me show you why this is not accurate. This is why you need to make your decision with the accurate details, opposed to things you kind of came into this conversation. So that's a big inefficiency we have in the world. I think that spans all industries.
Do you find a lot of the information out there in real estate is phony or not realistic?
No, I would say the majority is accurate. That's the good news. I wouldn't say it's we're chock full of inaccuracies or fraudulent claims or what have you. It's the nuances, and that's really the difference that it makes. And that's really where the professional comes in play in terms of if you have southern exposure rather than northern exposure, how historically will that sell faster? How will that impact your day-to-day lifestyle with you and your family? What kind of value does that have on a particular subdivision? It's really hard for those internet resources to kind of extrapolate that. So to me, it's more the nuances, but that's really important to having a great experience and then a great set of memories for you and your family as you own that home.
Do you think most brokerages truly understand their own economics, or are they operating reactively?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say there's three tiers of brokerages in today's world. There's a boutique broker like I was back in 1997 when I opened my own brokerage. I had 8 to 20 agents along the way. I never sold anything but the zip code. I focused on Fisher Island, a very great luxury zip code. It was very it was tough to compete in that world back in the 90s and early 2000s. It's become increasingly tough to compete for that brokerage. That particular broker is usually just existing to just sell more, and they're not really making a business plan, or they're not really seeing where their ROI truly is. You have other brokerages right now in the world that are legacy brokerages, let's call them, that have been around for a long time. They do sell a lot of homes, a lot of great agents, but the architecture within the brokerage, the business model is antiquated. It's bloated. It's brick and mortar heavy. It's employee heavy. Your fixed costs, and it's making those brokerages having a harder and harder time to compete because of profitability, right? Selling a lot of homes, but spending a lot of money to sell those homes. Your operating expenses are more than your revenue. It's not a great business model. They're struggling. And then you have some of the more creative, more nimble brokerages that are emerging now that are mid-size to large size that have been built with different principles. The cloud-based brokerages, which back 10 years ago was completely scoffed at and thought of complete nonsense. How could you responsibly run a brokerage in a cloud-based environment? Today, I'd say probably 80 to 90% of brokerages that are emerging are cloud-based. ENRG, my brokerage being one of them, being a cloud-based brokerage, just because it allows you to build a business model that makes sense in today's world. You can contain your operating expenses much more tangibly. You can give that much more value to your agents and then your clients accordingly.
So when you say cloud-based, that means do you operate from an office at all, or do you just operate remotely?
Well, I used to carry on even when I was transacting. So my office was my iPhone, right? And that's once we got into that world in the mid 2010s, that's truly the way most agents do truly operate. In today's world, there are brokerages who still believe in brick and mortar offices having a street sense, and in some communities that may bring value. The vast majority in today's world, that is not going to bring value, or a tangible value. It may just be something that's a loss leader. For example, if you're selling vacation homes, you may want to be near the strip where it has the ice cream shop and the mini putt-putt golf and things like that people are kind of going and they're emotionally falling in love walking into your door. But no, a cloud-based brokerage is a place that does not have a brick and mortar set of offices. They may have one or two, but in a location by location basis. It's not something that the brokerage does. Our teams, our independent brokerages, or our agents for that matter, may choose to have a brick and mortar presence. Totally fine. That's on their business model. We as a brokerage then would administer whatever state documents to make sure they're compliant, so they can conduct their business accordingly and properly.
So if I walk down the high street, as we call it in Florida, am I not going to see many realtors anymore?
I would suggest that you'll see much less storefronts than you would have 10 or 15 years ago. And again, it speaks to the nature how consumers do think about purchasing a home or investment property. People will more than likely start doing the research in the comfort of their home, in a robe late at night, and that's when most of the early inquiries start coming in today's world, opposed to that old school kind of ideology, going to a high street, knocking on someone's door, walking into an office, having a coffee together to start.
I mean, in the UK, we have quite a lot of sites that actually obviously advertise real estate. But also, if you go down the high street, you'll still find 10, 12, 15, real estate offices, with pictures in the windows, advertising houses and property for sale. So It looks like the UK are quite a little bit behind on the move in the US.
Well, I think that relates to the cultural changes between the way data is processed and shared, right? The way that homes that are available are shared in the United States is a lot more open. There's a little bit of change happening today in the last couple of months, but in other countries such as the UK, that transparency and access to information is not as abundant. So I think that may lead also to something that kind of still sticks in their culture there.
Well, before we move on, I'm just interested to know why you sold your own real estate office and moved on from that. What prompted you?
So I still technically do own my own brokerage. It's just not something I focus on day to day. I do have a set of I call them friends and family who are still licensed there, and if they do a license just out of loyalty to them, it still does exist. Just that's not my focus day to day.
Okay. Question I've got to ask for you. When we see the programs on Netflix and
Yeah.
Amazon about the real estate sellers,
Yep.
and how glamorous it all looks. How close is that to reality?
All right, so a little asterisk. I personally have never watched them because I'm immersed into it day to day, and most of the people that you see, I know they're colleagues, they're friends of mine, so we have conversations about them. From what I gather, and from these are from the people that are behind, in front of the camera there that people are watching. It's a lot of post production. There's some string of reality, but a lot of it is definitely catered to be more storytelling, which then again leads them to be more interesting characters, which are more likely to get that phone call to come to them rather than someone else in that particular zip code. A lot of it is, from what I understand, especially the people in SoCal, Southern California, they do it mostly to promote their area, to kind of pump up the awareness and the glamour of living in Newport Beach, California, which is an amazing place to live. But again, people have awareness around the globe from those kind of shows and stuff like that, which then help boost interest and boost property value and commissions, etc.
So they are profitable real estate offices.
I'm sorry?
They are profitable, really, well-functioned real estate offices.
So I would say half and half. I mean, the majority are because again they're in a luxury world, and again when I was transacting, I was in a luxury world of Fisher Island. It becomes back down to being a good business person because I know a lot of agents, and I would have stories. I would have like one of the top selling agents in the world. She lived on Fisher Island. I would negotiate all our deals that we had together in her living room because she wanted to be with her puppy and everything. It was great. And there were times we'd be negotiating, potentially like a little concession for a brokerage of $10,000 or $15,000 on $100,000 commission. And she would tell me straight out, I've already spent more than $90,000 marketing this property. So although luxury agents bring in larger checks from larger sale prices, very likely they are spending a lot more in their marketing and in their lifestyle, which may not make them profitable. So again, it may not be exactly as we see in Hollywood or on TV.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
Obviously, you look so glamorous from where we sit.
it always
And
looks like
you have to think yourself, should I move to Florida and become a real estate agent? They're
yeah.
all good.
We had at one point in COVID, we had over 6,000 new applications for real estate professionals in a month.
Really?
Yeah. So again,
Uh,
that allure that you're talking about is universal, and it unfortunately doesn't come to reality. And my job at this point in my career is, as I run brokerages and guide agents, is to educate them and guide them to run a better business and be profitable, not be one of the statistics who tried it and just it didn't work out.
so that leads on to my next question. I mean, what are you seeing right now on the ground that most people outside the industry don't appreciate?
Wow, that is a great question, and to put a topic on that, I would argue in the last 12 months we've seen more transformational behind the scenes changes in the real estate business that the consumer will start seeing the effects in the next year or two or three. So the consumer doesn't see a lot, which is good. It's not necessary. But what I think the consumer doesn't see, and I think that's a really testament to how poorly our the NAR, the National Association of Realtors, has done to kind of advocate for us as real estate professionals, is how hard and how much work goes into every single transaction. You know, we had that recent lawsuit that came, that the NAR had lost, and it lost a very big fine. And in a nutshell, they just did a very poor job telling the court exactly how much a real estate agent does in every single transaction, and therefore it was deemed that the compensation rate was being either tagged or too high for that reason. When you look at it and you extrapolate out how many hours you work a transaction, you look at your compensation check at the end, it's not as glamorous as people from afar may think. Again, a consumer goes in their closing statement and say, wow, Gary just made $10,000 in that transaction. How much work did Gary really do for $10,000? You probably did a heck of a lot. But again, that's not noted there, and it's not kind of acknowledged by the public as a whole.
What are the rates? Is it 2 to 5% or 5%?
I gotta be
Rate
careful.
charge?
So they're not standard rates, which was part of the lawsuit. If you look on a mathematical data average, I would say 2.5 or less, and depends on a market by market basis as well. Some markets tend to have properties that sell much faster. That the rates are kind of compressed a little bit. Other markets where the traditional sales cycle is 60 to 90 days, it's going to take more time, more advertising money. Then the agent can responsibly substantiate a higher compensation rate because they're spending more money and time involved in that process.
So when you started your brokerage in 1997, what
Yeah.
did success look like to you then compared to today?
Oh, I was a much younger person, as we all were back, years back. Success at that point was really just controlling my own destiny, my own brand equity, doing it without any kind of brokerage or corporate restraints. My specific market and my business model was like Uber personalization and boutique. And so that meant, getting to know a client and not only representing them for the sale or the buy or the lease, but really getting to know them year after year about as their kids and grandkids got older. If they needed a larger golf cart because they had a larger family now, helping them get a larger golf cart. Back in the day, there were not electronic locks. Everybody had a hard key. So I would have over 100 keys of residents on Fisher Island that I'd sold to them. And every once in a while, they would leverage me because they'd be out of town and be like, hey, can you do me a favor? My husband needs to wear this special tie to the yacht club party next weekend. Can you get it and FedEx it to me? So I would basically kind of go in there, help them out, or someone from my team, and do little things like that to just make it that whole experience that much enjoyable. And the next time them and one of their friends were looking to buy something on Fisher Island, they would always remember us. So it was a good business model, but owning my own brokerage allowed me to kind of brand accordingly. We did a lot of co-branding. Our turtle, a sea turtle, was our logo. So I was kind of known as the turtle guy on the island. So basically we had coffee cups, frisbees, stickers for the golf carts. Like there was turtles everywhere in the island. And again, it was very identifiable to my brand and what we brought to the table for our clients on Fisher Island.
Interesting. Where do you think most brokerage owners get it wrong when trying to expand and scale nowadays?
Yeah, great question. Scaling is really, really challenging. Again, it comes back to being a disciplined business owner, not just someone who throws a number on the board because it sounds interesting to go from 10 to 20 agents. Whenever I consult, teams or agents at this juncture, I start out really, acknowledging their success. This is great that you're doing well. What are you trying to accomplish going from 10 to 20 agents? What is it really going to take in terms of time, focus, money? A lot of team leaders and brokerage owners don't recognize that really every 15 or 20 agents, you need another administrative person, right? That may be changing now with AI and leveraging some technology tools behind the scenes. So maybe that's every 25 or 30 agents instead of 15 or 20. But at some point in time when you're in a local atmosphere and you're kind of administering oversight and management to a team under your brand guidelines in a community, there's going to take a human concentration there. And a lot of times people forget about that. They just look at, 10 more agents gives me 100 more transactions, which gives me X amount more in my pocket. And again, that profitability kind of withers away pretty darn quickly, unfortunately.
So, your setup, I think, in the States is different to what we see here. Explain to me, when you go as an agent, under any umbrella to work, obviously as a salesperson, real estate person. Are you responsible for your own budget? You mentioned that that lady spent 90,000
Yes.
on advertising. Does that mean that as an agent, you've got your own budget, and if you're expecting
Right.
to earn 100,000 on a commission, it's for you to manage your own advertising budget within that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, an agent is an independent contractor in the United States here. So they're licensed for oversight and for compliance with the brokerage, which legally needs to happen. But they are, independent to make their own decisions. And, some are very disciplined, saying, hey, I will not spend more than 21% of my advertising to a potential revenue from a listing ahead. Others just spend because they feel they can't afford to say no to that seller, or they can't afford to lose the listing, so they'll spend a lot of money at the potential listing expiration date, which again, sometimes can be successful, but can be very risky when you're making more emotional, non-planned out business decisions.
So what does the actual agency owner provide? Does he provide towards that budget, depending on the split that you receive, or does he just provide the opportunity and the name and goodwill? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, every brokerage has their own business model and their own value proposition, right? In general, every cloud-based brokerage, like every brick and mortar brokerage, like I would say, there's the need to haves and the nice to haves, right? The need to haves are the governmentally mandated things that you have to provide as the business and the responsible brokerage, so as a fiduciary to the state, to the clients, and to your agents that you have to provide. So that's what everybody provides. The nice to haves are the things that, each brokerage will kind of put a little different emphasis upon. Again, we believe within what we're building in ENRG is about, how can we be production focused? How can we take a $5 million sales agent and get them to $8 million? How can we take an $8 million and take them to 12? So a lot of our focus on the nice to haves is with being consultative, being very personalized with that service, to give them all the need to haves. But in those critical moments where someone may take that jump and do more production and have more focus and to be educated better, that's where we're putting our chips behind. And we're really excited what happened in year one in terms of our success, and super excited where year two is for the next promise, for the next growth of agents to join us.
Well, I don't mean to go on about the fees. I'm just interested.
Yeah.
If the agency charges 2.5-3%, for a sale, what does the actual real estate agent get? The person doing the sales.
Yeah, in the U.S., there's two basic models. There's a cap model and there's an uncapped model. So an uncapped model is just in perpetuity. We're on an 80-20 split. So every dollar that comes in, the brokerage will give 80 cents to the agent, and they'll retain 20% for themselves in perpetuity. So if someone is doing $100 million worth of real estate in sales, that's a lot of money coming to the brokerage. The cap model, which has become more and more attractive to most agents in recent times, say the last decade, is you'll have a cap. So it'll be at a specific percentage split. So again, let's say 80-20 is your split. A dollar comes in, 80 cents comes to the agent, 20 cents goes to the brokerage. The cap comes in that maybe it's like $15,000 or $20,000. Once that 20% of the company dollar gets to that cap level, then at that point it's 100% to the agent. So for a top producing agent who's producing $5 million plus in real estate, it's going to give more money back to them to make their own personal decisions of how to allocate that compensation revenue to do more marketing or do different things event-wise in your community, et cetera, to kind of build their own brand accordingly.
So I think that's fantastic. I mean, I know obviously every business is challenging, but it's a great model, and it is a great career.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the looks of it. Having worked across development, sales, marketing, in the real estate industry, how important is alignment across all those functions?
Across the functions between the economics and the agent and the brokerage. Again, it's imperative for the brokerage first and foremost, because they're gonna, the company's gonna fall apart if the economics are not secure. On an agent by agent basis, life is about chapters. Sometimes an agent will start off in a specific kind of support system with a specific economics, and then at some point they elevate, they want to change and kind of be a little more aggressive or a little more conservative. So I'd say it's more important for the brokerage. The agent has, again, since they're independent contractors, the ability to say, I tried this for a year, I think I'm ready for the next step, or I tried this for a year or two and I feel as the economy changes, I'm in a better position with a different kind of model. So there's a little more flexibility from the agent side.
At what point does a brokerage hit a ceiling, if it ever hits a ceiling, and why does that happen?
A ceiling in terms of?
Economics, obviously what it can achieve, how much it can sell, how successful it can be.
That's a great question. I mean, we just had the largest merger in our industry occur and close in 2026 with the Anywhere Compass. So that, we're now in uncharted waters. We're that brokerage over many franchises has over 300,000 agents. So time will tell. They're a publicly traded company, how successful their planning is, and that'll be a great testament to say, because no one's ever done it at that scale, is that a successful business model? I believe that it will be. But I believe that there's still a space for smaller, more high-touch brokerages that are more locally based. The big difference is the business principles are consistent. However, brokerages at that scale these are Wall Street people who have probably never sold a home making those decisions. They don't have context in terms of what really matters to the consumer, what really matters to the agent experience. Someone like myself and everybody from our team, we're all have transaction experience. We all have executive and business experience too. So we bring together the best of both worlds in our eyes. We like the way we're kind of meshing this together and evolving a brokerage and scaling it accordingly. Do we aspire to be 300,000 agents? Probably not. But there's definitely a larger scale ahead, which would make better sense for us as an organization and for agents as a whole to have better leverage just to kind of compete and also service their clients accordingly.
Well, what made you move to a national platform from, obviously selling properties on Fisher Island?
Yeah, great question. So this is my second national platform that I've been a part of. In 2019, my wife was going through some health issues, so I kind of knew ahead I needed to kind of reallocate my time to be more present in the household itself, to be there for my daughter who is 16 now at this juncture. So I was kind of looking for that next chapter of my professional career. I had met Side Incorporated at a luxury conference in Beverly Hills. I was very aligned of what they were looking to build. So I started in 2019 for them, and for 6 years, I was the pioneer on the East Coast of Florida there for a national platform to help, great agents who desire to open up their own brokerage. Very proud of what we did here in the state of Florida. Opened up over 125 boutique brokerages with 125 amazing agents who would have never owned their brokerage prior. So it was a mindset of shifting my time to be more allocated for my family. I resigned last year because I just felt it was my time to kind of go into the sunset. And as soon as I resigned, a colleague of mine a week later came to me and said, you might want to talk to the Nobles, the founders of ENRG Realty. I think you have a lot of alignment of who they are, what you've done. And a couple months later, I started on this journey helping them out on year one.
Fantastic. What are the limitations then of the traditional independent brokerage model today compared with a national platform?
Yeah, great question. It is transformed so much. So again, let's get back in the time machine. 1997, I opened up my own brokerage, boutique brokerage on Fisher Island. I was able to have really tremendous success. I'm very proud of what we did for 25 years. We did over 5,000 transactions on island. Lots of volume, helped lots of good families. That being said, even back in those days, the competitive disadvantage I had doing it my way was tremendous. It was my time, it was my money, my risk. And, with hard work and good foresight and a good team around me, we did great things. We overcame those disadvantages. Fast forward to the 2020s, again, going back to these kind of mega brokerages, the resources and the technologies that are kind of required to compete and kind of level out the power for policy making that we're seeing on a day-to-day basis, that's solely controlled by the mega brokerages. So does that say a very talented top agent can open up their own brokerage in today's world and succeed? Absolutely. Do I think that percentage is lower? I think dramatically. I think that, again, the disadvantages of not having some level of scale is going to be very challenging for some top agents who take the opportunity to open up their own boutique brokerage to succeed in today's world. Hopefully, with the emergence of AI and vibe coding, that can level out a little bit of the resources needed, and some smarter, better business people can compete effectively in today's world, and maybe that tweaks back to a little better competitive advantage in the future.
Talking about your new role at ENRG, what made you move there, and what's the real vision behind the company beyond just being another brokerage? What's the differentiating factor that excited you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I love how you packaged it. And there's definitely not a need for just another brokerage in our world. I would have been on the beach much more frequently and playing golf much more frequently if there was not a cause and a mission. As I met Peter and Aaron Noble, and again, very accomplished professionals, just amazing human beings. They'd already scaled two very large national brokerages from the infancy to scale. And as they departed and kind of did their own life reflections, they felt, and I agree with them, there's something remaining. There's still a gap within our industry. And essentially, the DNA for ENRG Realty is boutique at scale, right? It's like, what if a national brokerage brought the resources and that kind of strength of scale to agents to give that boutique feel on a day-to-day basis, that personalized kind of backup on a day-to-day basis? What would that look like? How many more agents would that allow them to succeed? How would that impact the community? We've not seen that to date in our industry. It's a really unique problem and challenge in our eyes, but we're really proud of what we're doing and how we're going about accomplishing that, and giving those folks who say, you know what, I don't want to have my day-to-day real estate business controlled by a Wall Street-led mega brokerage. I want to be led by someone who are leaders, who really lead with heart, who have experience, and really care about what matters to me in Asheville, North Carolina, or San Antonio, Texas. So those are the differentiating things that we're bringing to the table. And again, year one, we built a really, really solid model. We've had some great success with some agents and teams and independent brokerages. Year two is all about getting the word out there, getting more folks to kind of join us, and kind of see where this goes together and be very nimble.
So do you have to travel a lot because of your new role?
I don't. In today's world, traveling, being in person is always preferred. It's always great to sit down and have a coffee and share a meal. But in my role at this capacity, just at this chapter of the company, I don't really need to travel that frequently. So I can,
You can do it by Zoom.
Do right here from Zoom, and on calls right here from Amelia Island, Florida, to have the best of both worlds, make a big impact in the industry, but be a dad and make dinner every night for my daughter.
Nice. So what does building a platform actually mean in practical terms? I mean, how do you build a platform to sell real estate and differentiate yourself?
Yeah, again, that's going to go. I'm going to go back to that need to have and nice to haves. Like, you need to have processes and protocols in terms of how you're going to administer the forms to your agents, how you're going to have compliance to that, how you're going to when the commission checks come in, how they're dispersed efficiently. No one likes to wait for their payments, so we want to close today and pay the agent today as well. So those are the need to haves. The nice to have things that we're doing, again, we're nimble. We have the ability to not have to tear things down and replace employees or departments. So we're being very mindful to have technology behind the scenes. If you look at real estate today, a lot of brokerages will put technology into the agent's hands, which sounds really smart, but in reality what happens is it confuses the agents. Agents don't want to learn another protocol. They don't want to learn another app every single month. They want to be part of their community. They want to interact with clients. They want to get to learn the best floor plans and the market trends ASAP. So we're leveraging more of the technology on the support side with the brokers, our support team, onboarding, our marketing, and our payments. And again, we're seeing a really great experience for that because it doesn't get the agents stuck in processes or the job. It keeps them focused on the client, their community, and doing more transactions.
So what makes an agent that does well as compared to an agent that excels?
I think there's the word I tend to use a lot is obsession. I think the word of obsession has a bad terminology in a lot of people's minds, but I think in any industry or any discipline, I used to be a competitive triathlete. I think you need to be somewhat obsessed in what you're doing in your craft. And I think the agents who have some level of healthy obsession will excel because they're just constantly sponging. They're never ever taking, being content of where they are. I mean, I've been doing this for 34 years and I'm still listening to podcasts. I'm still going on webinars every single day to learn what's next. I think too many agents come into the business and think it's going to be easy. They do a couple transactions and they get comfortable and they stop learning. They stop trying to understand what is next for their client. So I think that really is the disseminating factor, is having a healthy level of obsession, and then obviously having a great support team behind you within your brokerage. If you're doing it completely on your own with no resources, that's a tough slug. If you have that healthy level of obsession, you're doing good business, and you've got a great platform, that's a pretty good recipe for success.
So if someone's plateauing and not really, progressing, well, what's the first thing they generally need to reassess? Is it market understanding, market technique, or is it relationship building? What are the elements that make one guy a huge success who have both got market ability to one who's not so successful? Is it relationships?
I would suggest, and what I always recommend younger agents or junior agents who are kind of struggling a little bit to get to that next level, it's at bats. I'm a baseball fan. I'm a New York Yankee fan from growing up. You need to get at bats to refine your craft. And in today's world, a junior agent or a brand new agent, they're not getting the opportunity for at bats. Some of it is technology, some of it is platform, some of it's just, again, the awareness of a client. When I speak on stage, I say to everybody in the room, I say, how many people in this room have a real estate license? Everybody raises their hand. I said, do you realize every single one of you, when you got your real estate license, we started with the same, 0 transactions, right? And then think about it. You're going to a family's home. This is their most valuable economic asset. And you're saying, trust me. I've never done this, but trust me to take this process here, do the best job to sell your home. That's a pretty intimidating ask. You have to be very charismatic. You have to be very entrenched in somehow a connection with their lives for them to trust you with 0 transactions under your belt. So what I always give as a recommendation for anybody who comes to me and struggling, I'll listen. We'll give small consultation, but it's really, I say, you really should join a team, right? A team in today's world is a very lead enriched machine, and they just are always looking for additional parts to help run more deals and fulfill more leads. That'll give someone the experience doing the at-bats, understanding what an inspection report would look like, how to negotiate that, what are the final steps of closing, all the nuances that'll make them better to give them that opportunity, and they can responsibly go to that next consumer and saying, I've closed 25 deals over the last year with the Gary Wayne team, for example. It's not about the team at that point, then it's the experience and the confidence they have to professionally convey that and get an opportunity with a seller.
So so people do work in teams, they don't all work independently.
Yeah, again, we kind of kid around and say you can swim in 3 lanes. You could be an independent agent, which is you're just Gary Wayne, you're selling real estate, you're doing really good things in your community. You could be the Gary Wayne team, and that may be 3 people, it could be 25 people, it could be 100 people, it could be in different states.
They all share the revenue.
You would have your own kind of sub-business split within that. Again, we would consult those teams how to best maximize that to their goals. Or you could be an independent brokerage, which then in the US world is just 100% brand facing to the public. So a team and an independent brokerage really works in the same way within a platform. However, the team has to be co-branded with the brokerage. The independent brand only has their brand at the public's eye.
So you get a brokerage, and then you can have underneath it 3 heads of different teams.
Absolutely, yeah. And you could have another 25 single agents underneath the brokerage. So yeah,
And then as guys progress, they might break away and set up their own team.
They may, you hope not. You try to do your best to give value and have high retention, but that is part of the business cycle at times, yeah.
So we touched on AI and obviously how technology is gradually becoming more and more important in real estate as it is in everything else. Tell me what you're seeing about technology, AI, that's making a huge difference in real estate and how it's best used.
Yeah, I think on the consumer facing, there's a lot of portals that the consumers could work through on their search criteria, et cetera. That's going to give them more personalized, real time data and information. There are portals such as like Real Scout that you can, again, they're voice activated. You don't have to type in very rigid opportunities of what you're looking for. It could be an oval-shaped pool with a south-facing exposure. It could be on the water but not on the ocean. Things of that nature within 3 miles of a supermarket. Things that a specific client may be interested in that previously would never be able to kind of dial in there and get more real-time access to what could be coming up or what could be changing in that marketplace for them. So I think that's pretty important that way. In terms of the agent experience, it depends brokerage by brokerage. Some brokers, again, are using, in my mind, too much technology and too much AI. That's kind of actually bogging them down and not keeping them focused. The best brokerages, and that's how we're building it, are using AI and technology on the back end. So if and when an agent needs support and they call into their state broker, they're getting a quicker answer, a more comprehensive answer, in different mediums. Perhaps it could be a video clip, it could be an audio clip, it could be a white paper kind of clip. So those are things that I think are very important to kind of elevate the education and the performance of an agent day to day without confusing them and slowing them down onto their true focus of being in the community.
Great. Now, obviously, you've been in leadership roles for some time.
Yes.
How does that role look like today when you're building something from the ground up at scale?
So it's a chore and it's a luxury. So the chore is there's nothing there, so you have to build everything from scratch. SOPs, protocols, and contingency plans. The luxury is, again, because things are changing so fast in today's world, is we can kind of do it with a blank palette and not have to tear things down. So again, what we're doing today with ENRG Realty would have been probably very challenging, if not impossible, even 5 years ago. But the emergence of technology allows us to complete without having the resources and venture capital funds and different kind of shareholders who would want to do things differently, opposed to being really, really agent focused. How can we be more personalized to the agent? How can we be very predictive to make sure that agent has more production year after year?
What mistakes do you see other leaders making when they try to scale too quickly?
Scaling too quickly, normally speaking, it's adding too much operating expense too early. And if the revenue doesn't tail accordingly, it's going to put pressure then on the leaders to make decisions upon need rather than planning properly. So that's the normal situation, is going too wide too early instead of going too deep, right? So we've seen it in every business. If you start saying, you know what, I'm very successful in Florida, let me open up in Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama around me. Sounds great on paper, but that takes 3 new business motions with 3 new leaders in each state. You may not have the bandwidth and the kind of runway to do that too effectively today. Maybe you just start in Georgia, right? So I think that's the thing, is going too wide too early.
Okay. And what about the next 5 or 10 years? Where do you see the opportunities?
Wow. Five or 10 years is like, I feel like that's a millennium in the real estate world right now. I do believe we're going to see, we've talked about it for the last decade or so, an even faster and even larger contraction of actual agents that have licenses. I think the most recent estimation is 1.6 million license holders in the United States, across all states. The last couple of years, we've been a little bit low in our transaction sales. We've only had about 4 million sales, right? So if you do the math, that's 2.5 sales per agent. That's not sustainable on a lifestyle and profession methodology that way. So I think you're going to see kind of a acceleration of really great teams be able to do more business to make a bigger impact in their community, and go accordingly. I always say we live in a great community called Amelia National. It's a golf course community here by Amelia Island. We have about 500 homes. I always say, I'm like, do my friends and family here around the neighborhood, do they want 3 or 4 really good experts, or do they want 35 experts? They only need 3 or 4 experts in reality, right? That can handle things responsibly, know all the nuances, that can educate someone to buy and sell. So I think you're going to have a further contraction of agent count, and I think that will actually help the quality of the experience for the consumer moving forward, which is a really good thing.
Is the examination tough to get the license?
I'm sorry?
Is the examination tough to get the license?
I mean, like any test, tough is a relative term. I don't think it's as difficult as it should be. I know in other areas, my friends in the Bahamas, once you've passed your test, you still need to be basically an apprentice for a year or two with a senior broker. I think things of that nature, having a higher education, becoming a more difficult test, will actually help the success of agents, and I think it'll help the success of communities as a whole. But we've not seen any kind of change in that regard recently.
If you could change one thing about the industry today that would make it a lot better, what would it be?
Wow, there's so many things. I would say just top of mind is just the noise. There is so much social media noise out there, which is just either unnecessary or inaccurate, of junior agents who have been taught or believe that making kind of wild videos and posts is the best way to build a business. I think if we could eliminate that, it'll then kind of dial in the consumer back to what really matters. This real estate agent you're going to choose to represent you has a really important task in you and your family's role for economics, for investment, and just for your lifestyle moving forward. If we kind of eliminate that and get back to what really matters, I think that that'll help everybody as a whole. That'd be a great magic wand for me.
Do you think real estate has been over glorified then?
You must listen. I mean, real estate is fun. You know what I mean? It's great to vacation homes and having a new pool and going to a new school and your kids are playing little league. There's a lot of great fun things with real estate, but has it been over glorified? The process has. And again, I think through that glorification, it's taken away the sincerity of what the task is and what the art is and where the value is. And that's unfortunate. It's not about a higher compensation. It's just a matter of making sure that consumers are aligning themselves with truly focused and competent professionals. And I think sometimes when you glamorize things, people get attracted to things, going back to those those shows on TV, and that may or may not be the best representative for your needs in that community.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't think. I think what it does, it must put pressure, and I don't know because I'm not in the industry. It must put pressure on rates because when people are seeing or being depicted as getting very wealthy from what looks like an easy sale, you must think to yourself, why am I giving these people so much money?
Absolutely, and the recent lawsuit, which has kind of opened up the transparency of that upfront, has now created that conversation at the beginning of a buyer relationship, where that never used to be. And there are some junior agents who are being affected for that reason. They may be doing a great job, but they may not be very good at kind of enunciating their value when they make that buyer commitment. So if they normally would work for 2.5% compensation, they may get kind of uneasy and take 1.5% or 1% for that matter, just because they don't want to lose that client, right? They're still going to do the same job. They're still going to do a great job. But again, because of some of the structural changes, it is affecting, some of the agents' bottom line, unfortunately.
Fantastic, Donnie. Just one thing I'd like to ask before we go. If you had to give advice to new agents starting out today, what would it be, and what's the one shift they need to make to be successful?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. New agents, find a good team and join a team. Build your resume, build your confidence, build your professional capacity by getting at bats. It's not something you can watch on a webinar. It's something you need to be in front of clients. You need to understand the emotionality of a human, when they close on their first home, things of that nature. They're really things that you can't teach. They need to be part of. And if you're joining a really high producing team, you'll have better opportunity to learn in a more focused manner. You'll have more opportunity to have those experiences. You'll become a much better professional much quicker that way.
Fantastic. Well, I've really enjoyed this podcast.
Thank you. Likewise, Gary.
It's been one of my longer ones, and as you can see, it's been long because I'm actually interested in the subject, and yeah, I love real estate. I mean, I've dabbled in it in the UK and Europe, so yeah, it's something that really interests me, and I have watched a couple of those programs. So getting the real bottom line, info on it from someone like yourself is very, very important and very key. For people who want to get hold of you and want to learn more about NRG and what you're doing and what the future holds and the solutions you can solve, etc., where can they find you?
You can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I'm big on LinkedIn. Just send me a direct message, Donnie Pingaro at DONNIE. Also, ENRG Realty. ENRG.realty is our website. Take a peek there. You can get a little bigger picture of what we're doing. You may not know about us yet, but I assure you in the next year or two, you will start hearing more and more about what we're doing and hopefully make an impact in your community as well.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. It looks like NRG is going places with Donnie's help. We'll be back within a day or two with another episode, Wise Tech and Wise Money. We'll try and keep it as interesting as today's. Thank you again, Donnie. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Gary.